We all feel angry from time to time, but most of us try to avoid it. Whether it's because we think it's bad to be angry, or we think people won't like us if we're angry, or that we'll make bad decisions when we're angry. No matter the reason, pretty much all of us want to live a life with less anger. In this first of 3 videos on anger, I'm going to try to answer the question, what is anger, and how should we deal with it? I'm Benjamin Voiles. Let's go. Anger is a part of life. Whether it's from stepping on a Lego while trying to get the kids out the door for school, or sitting in rush hour traffic, or having to work on the weekends, we feel angry regularly. And most of us deal with it by trying to suppress it or ignore it. But we all know that doesn't work so well. It doesn't just go away. It hides in the background, influencing your life from the shadows. If you're not careful, you end up blowing up at your kids or your wife, or you end up drinking too much, or making rash decisions that later bite you in. For the most part, we all understand what anger feels like. But do we truly understand it? For starters, there are a lot of versions of anger. From annoyance and irritation, to frustration, exasperation, to fury and rage. They all have unique flavors, but they're all still anger. They're all rooted in the same feeling. Anger has an internal feeling of warmth or heat and tension. It has an internal energy of rising up. We have thoughts of pushing against or overcoming something. And we have stories about being violated, wronged, or held back. And while you know what anger feels like in yourself and others, do you know why you get angry? Do you know the reason you're angry? Almost all of us look to the external world to find the reason or the cause for our anger. It was the Lego you stepped on. It's this awful traffic. It's your wife's constant nagging. It's your husband who's never listening to you. It's your boss's endless demands, your mother's constant judging, or the stupid thing the president just said. You may see any of these external things as the reason you're angry, but your anger isn't external, it's internal. And so the reason is also internal. You may have felt anger when those things happened. And maybe if those things didn't happen, you wouldn't have been angry in that moment. But they're not the reason you're angry. If there's water dripping from your ceiling during a rainstorm, you know it's the crack in your roof that's the reason, not the storm. So let's stop blaming the clouds and let's find the crack that's causing our anger. To understand what's happening when we get angry, I'm going to elaborate on this roof leaking story. Let's say you moved into a house a month ago. Today is the first rain since you moved in. As the rain's coming down, drops start falling right over your dining room table. You grab a bucket and put it over the table to catch the water. Well, this is a bit annoying. After the storm, you go outside and look at the roof. You can see what looks like a missing shingle. You're renting this house, so you call the landlord and tell her about it. She says it's the first time this has happened, and she'll have someone come check it out right away. A week goes by and no one comes. Then it rains again. You once more have to put the bucket on the table. Now you're irritated. You call the landlord again. You tell her that you want it done as soon as possible because more storms are in the forecast. She once again assures you that she'll take care of it. Alas, more storms come. The bucket becomes a permanent part of the table setting. Now you can't help but feel frustrated with every drop of water that hits that bucket. Eventually, someone comes to check it out. The repairman says he can fix the leak, but the water inside the ceiling has already led to mold, so the whole ceiling needs to be ripped out and replaced. This will take a couple weeks and you won't be able to use the kitchen or dining room in the meantime. Now you're really angry. Now let's retell the story, but this time it isn't a rental house. You own the house. During the first rain, when the water starts dripping on the dining room table, you get a bit annoyed and you put the bucket on the table. After you see the missing shingle, you ask around and find a recommendation for a repairman. You call. He's pretty busy and won't make it out for at least a week. With more storms in the forecast, you call another repairman and another one. Eventually you find one that can come the next day. When he does, he inspects the roof and gives you a quote. It's pretty high, but the storm is coming fast. You decide to bite the bullet and pay him. He fixes the roof that day. 2 days later, the next storm rolls in. You keep a watchful eye on the ceiling, but as the storm passes and the ceiling remains dry, you start to relax. It costs you more money than you wanted, but the problem was resolved. In the end, you feel good about the roof and you move on. Unlike the rental example, you didn't get wrapped up in anger. So what's the difference? Well, as the homeowner, you had an issue and you decided it was up to you to resolve it. You took each step and you followed through until it was resolved. As a renter, you called the landlord like you're supposed to, but she dragged her feet and it inconvenienced you more and more. As a homeowner, you're fully responsible for the house and fixing the leak, but as a renter, you're only responsible for notifying the landlord. Fixing the problem is actually the landlord's responsibility. The main difference between these two situations is the level of responsibility that you're taking. When you're fully responsible, you're powerful. If you want something to change, you choose to change it. When you're not responsible, you're powerless. You're at the whim of someone or something else. Here is where anger is born. You see, anger is generated when there's something you want changed, but you can't change it. In other words, there's a part of you saying change it, and a part of you saying, I can't. This battle is anger. The rising energy you feel, the tension, the warmth, that's the part of you that's saying change it, pushing up against the part of you saying, I can't. Sometimes the change it part of you wins. You take responsibility, you become powerful, and you change it. Sometimes the I can't part of you wins. You do nothing. You become powerless. You turn into a victim. At the root of every time you feel anger is the feeling of powerlessness. And I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to feel that yourself. Think back to some time you were angry, or think about something that makes you angry right now. Is there a feeling of powerlessness that's going along with this anger, that's actually fueling this anger? Now, intense anger can possibly feel a bit powerful, and that's kind of the point. The energy is rising up, the energy encouraging you to be powerful. But when you look at what instigated the anger, I bet you'll find there's something you're feeling powerless about. When you truly feel powerful, you simply resolve whatever issue you're facing automatically. You don't get angry, you just fix whatever's wrong. You take responsibility for the situation. When you feel powerless, you do nothing. You blame someone else, and you don't take responsibility. And if you didn't catch that, power is responsibility. To be powerful, you have to do one thing: take responsibility. Power isn't money, it isn't popularity, it isn't intelligence, and it's definitely not control. Power is responsibility. Well, that's it for this video. I'm going to continue the discussion on anger in the next 2 videos. If you've appreciated this video, please hit the like button. If you want to hear more, subscribe. And if you can think of anyone who would like to hear this, share it with them, please. And whether you agree with me or not, that anger is the feeling of powerlessness, and power is responsibility, leave comments below. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. I'll see you in the next video on anger.